Okay, welcome to today's explainer. We're going to dive right into a totally fascinating economic theory coming straight from a source called hidden tax. So let's get right into the $4 trillion lever. The source kicks things off with a super provocative question. Is there a legal loophole out there that actually allows the executive branch to generate $4 trillion, completely bypassing Congress? Just let the sheer magnitude of that sink in for a second. Normally, government spending on that scale means endless debates, congressional approvals, massive legislative battles, the whole shebang. But the premise we're exploring today is that there's a specific hidden mechanism allowing the president to pull this massive financial lever totally solo. To figure out why a president might even need to do that, we have to look at the $39 trillion debt. $39 trillion. According to our sources, the United States is hitting this absolute brick wall of debt this year, setting the stage for what they're calling a potential systemic collapse. When an economy hits a number that insanely huge, the usual tools, standard taxes or tweaking the budget, they mathematically just can't keep up with the compounding interest. The source argues we're basically stuck in a giant interest trap, which is exactly why these radical, outside-the-box solutions are even theoretically on the table. And the proposed solution to stalling this massive debt wall, well, it centers entirely around one very specific number: 261 million. That's 261 million troy ounces of US gold. The theory here argues that this physical asset is the absolute key. It's the ultimate lever just waiting to be pulled to bail out the entire system. Let's bring in the CPA's reality check to see how this works. To kind of guide us through the actual mechanics of this without getting bogged down, the source brings in Brian, a CPA from Hidden Tax, and Brian cuts right through the noise. He says at Hidden Tax, we skip the economic theater. He gives us this stark, purely math-based look at the government's official books. Basically, by stripping away all the politics, we can look purely at the cold, hard accounting realities of the nation's balance sheet. And historically, it's pretty wild. The source points out that 1984 was the last time there was an actual physical audit of the US gold bars. For decades, the government has basically been relying on paperwork schedules instead of physically counting the bars. Now, fast forward to today, we're hitting that $39 trillion debt wall, and it's all leading right up to a projected emergency bailout deadline in July 2026. Oh, and by the way, that coincides right around the country's 250th anniversary. The source suggests there are rumors swirling that this huge anniversary is going to be the backdrop for a massive financial shift to stall out the debt. All right, let's look at the gold reset math. The whole mechanism of this proposed bailout relies on this dramatic mathematical contrast. Get this. Right now, US gold is officially on the government books for a mere $42 an ounce. Yes, just $42. Now compare that to the proposed reset price they're talking about, which is $15,000 an ounce. The whole theory hinges on capitalizing on this massive, totally absurd gap between that outdated official book value and a sudden massive revaluation. Let's literally walk through the steps exactly as Brian outlines them. Step 1. You take those 261 million ounces of US gold we just talked about. Step 2, you officially revalue that gold on the books, jumping from $42 all the way up to that staggering $15,000 per ounce. Step 3, when you do the math on that difference, it legally yields a $4 trillion margin for the Treasury. And as Brian puts it, this money comes free and clear. So no new taxes on citizens, no needing Congress to pass some massive spending bill. The executive branch theoretically unlocks $4 trillion basically out of thin air, just by updating an accounting entry. It's crazy. And the source material argues really strongly that this mathematical debt-erasing miracle isn't just, a fun accounting trick or some academic theory. They frame it as the absolute last resort. They actually call it the only legal medicine the Fed has left to avoid a total system collapse. It's essentially presented as this giant emergency parachute designed specifically to stall the interest trap created by that $39 trillion debt. So, let's talk about building your financial fortress. What is the actual takeaway here? Well, the source doesn't just leave us with a bunch of theories. They give a clear call to action. Brian's recommendation is that you shouldn't just wait around for this reset to happen. Instead, you need to immediately build what he calls a financial fortress. How? By owning real, tangible assets that the government literally cannot just print into existence. Holding physical gold is the prime example they give. The whole philosophy here is to position your portfolio so you keep the math in your favor. If a massive devaluation of currency and a revaluation of hard assets is really coming, you absolutely want to be holding the hard assets. So I'll leave you with this final provocative thought to chew on from today's explainer.